the intricacies of the Israel-Palestine conflict, it's a question that brings with it a myriad of complexities, historical roots, and a significant relevance to our world today. This conflict is not just a battle over land, but a clash of national aspirations, religious beliefs, and political ideologies. It's a story that goes back millennia, with Jerusalem as its epicenter, a city sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. In this narrative, we find characters ranging from King David, who conquered Jerusalem around 1000 BC, to modern-day politicians making decisions that reverberate around the globe. We see the ebb and flow of power, from the reign of Herod the Great to the British occupation during World War I, and the subsequent tensions between Arab and Jewish communities that led to the creation of the State of Israel. Understanding this history is not just about comprehending the present, but it's a stepping stone towards building a better future for the city, and indeed for the world. So buckle up and prepare for an enlightening journey. This video will take you on a journey through the key events and perspectives that have shaped this ongoing conflict. Firstly, we need to understand Palestine's status within the United Nations. Palestine, as it stands today, is not a full member of the United Nations. However, it does hold a special status known as a non-member observer state. This important distinction was granted to Palestine in late 2012, following a vote by the General Assembly. Now, you might be wondering, what does this non-member observer state status mean? Well, in practical terms, it gives Palestine the right to participate in General Assembly debates. They can also join some international organizations and sign treaties. However, they cannot cast a vote in the General Assembly. This is a significant step up from the previous status of observer entity, which Palestine held prior to 2012. This upgrade in status, while not full membership, has allowed Palestine to join several international bodies and treaties, including the International Criminal Court. The implications of this status are far-reaching. Firstly, it is an acknowledgement of the Palestinian state on the international stage. Secondly, it provides Palestine with a platform to voice its concerns and perspectives on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is crucial in ensuring a balanced narrative and promoting dialogue for peace. On the flip side, it's worth noting that this status does not equate to full sovereignty. Palestine's inability to vote in the General Assembly restricts its influence over UN resolutions and international law. It also doesn't guarantee recognition by individual UN member states, some of which, including the United States, do not officially recognize Palestine as a state. Despite these limitations, the status has symbolic significance, showing international support for the Palestinian cause and the two-state solution. This is a key aspect of the ongoing peace process. So, despite not being a full member, Palestine still has a significant role within the UN. It's a step towards recognition, a voice on the international stage, and a testament to the ongoing struggle for Palestinian statehood. Now, let's shift our focus to the United States' stance on this issue. Historically, the United States has been a staunch ally of Israel. This alliance has its roots in the aftermath of World War II, when the US played a significant role in establishing the State of Israel. Over the decades, this relationship has only strengthened, with the US providing substantial military aid and diplomatic support to Israel. In recent years, however, the US's position has been somewhat inconsistent and subject to shifts in political winds. While the US has always maintained its support for Israel's right to self-defense, it has also faced increasing scrutiny for its stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict, particularly amidst escalating violence and humanitarian concerns. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's recent defense of Israel's restraint in the face of escalating conflict with Palestine is indicative of the traditional US viewpoint. He emphasized the US's continued support for Israel and its commitment to hold terrorists and their supporters accountable, even as the United Nations warned of a potential full-scale war. However, this position has not been without its critics. Within the US, there's a growing call for a more balanced approach to the conflict. Some lawmakers have criticized Israel's treatment of Palestinians and called for limiting aid if the situation doesn't improve. The US's stance, while steadfast, is not without controversy. It's a delicate balancing act between supporting an ally and upholding humanitarian principles, and it's a balance that is constantly being tested. The US's position significantly influences the dynamics of the conflict, shaping not only the discourse but also the potential for peace or further escalation. The US's stance, while controversial, significantly influences the dynamics of the conflict. But what about the rules for declaring war between countries or states, you might ask? Well, the process isn't as simple as a mere declaration. It's governed by an intricate web of international laws and norms, primarily established by the United Nations Charter. The United Nations Charter, the document that forms the basis of international law, prohibits the use of force by member states except in two situations: in self-defense or when authorized by the UN Security Council. In the event of an armed attack, a country may invoke Article 51 of the UN Charter, which permits individual or collective self-defense. However, the use of force must always adhere to the principles of necessity and proportionality. That means the force used must be necessary to repel the attack and proportionate to the threat faced. In situations where a threat to peace, breach of peace, or act of aggression occurs, the UN Security Council, under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, has the authority to determine the necessary measures to restore international peace and security. These measures range from sanctions to the use of armed force. But what makes a war just? The concept of just war is steeped in history, tracing back to ancient philosophers and theologians. It lays out certain criteria that must be met for a war to be considered morally justifiable. These include having a just cause, being declared by a proper authority, possessing right intention, having a reasonable chance of success, and being a last resort. However, it's crucial to remember that these principles are not always observed in the real world. The complexities of global politics often blur the lines of what is considered just or necessary. Yet these rules remain essential for maintaining international peace and security. In the next installment, we'll delve into the consequences a country might face if it chooses to declare war not in accordance with these UN norms. Remember, international law serves as a guide for nations to navigate the turbulent waters of global conflict. These rules, while not always followed, are crucial for maintaining international peace and security. So, what happens if a country declares war not following these norms? Well, the consequences can be severe and far-reaching. When a country violates the United Nations norms, it essentially breaks the trust of the international community, and that's a big deal. The first step, typically, is condemnation. The UN may publicly denounce the violator, emphasizing the breach of international law and calling for an end to the aggression. This is more than just a slap on the wrist. It's a serious reputational damage that can lead to political and economic isolation. But condemnation isn't the end of it. The UN Security Council may also impose sanctions. These can range from economic penalties, such as trade embargoes or asset freezes, to travel bans and arms embargoes. These sanctions are designed to pressure the violating country into compliance, and their impact can be significant, affecting the economy, the political landscape, and even the everyday lives of the citizens. In more extreme cases, the United Nations may authorize the use of force to restore international peace and security. This could involve a peacekeeping mission or, in rare cases, a military intervention, which is always the last resort. It's important to remember that the UN's primary goal is to maintain peace, and it will always seek peaceful solutions first. But it's not just about the immediate consequences. Violating UN norms can also have long-term impacts. It can escalate conflicts, destabilize regions, and sow seeds of future discord. It can also undermine the international order and the rule of law, making the world a more dangerous place for everyone. It's worth noting that the consequences don't just fall on the violating country. Other nations can also face repercussions, especially those that are complicit in the violation or fail to uphold their responsibilities under international law. In conclusion, violating UN norms is a risky and damaging move. It can lead to isolation, economic hardship, and even military intervention. And beyond that, it can destabilize the global order and create a climate of fear and uncertainty. It's a path that no country should take lightly. Violating these norms can have serious implications, both for the countries involved and for global stability. In conclusion, understanding the Israel-Palestine conflict requires a nuanced understanding of many factors. We've unraveled a few of these threads today, starting with Palestine's unique status within the United Nations. The UN recognizes Palestine as a non-member observer state, which grants it certain privileges, but also limitations. We then turned our attention to the stance of the United States, which has historically sided with Israel, though with increasing calls for a more balanced approach. The intricacies of international law and the rules for declaring war were also discussed, shedding light on the delicate dance of diplomacy and conflict. The potential repercussions of violating United Nations norms, such as sanctions or international isolation, were also highlighted, emphasizing the importance of adhering to international law. However, the enforcement of these norms remains a contentious issue on the global stage. By understanding these aspects, we can better navigate the complexities of this ongoing conflict and work towards a more peaceful future.